It is another episode of the Quintessential Show. It is the movers and shakers of South Africa. And today we're talking about digital transformation in South Africa. I'm joined by Botha van der Vyver. He is the founder and managing director at a company called JustSolve. Botha, welcome to the Quintessential Show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Quintus. No, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Listen, it's a great pleasure to have you. It's a bit of a rainy day in Pretoria when we're recording this, so hopefully we might hear one or two thunderbolts. But anyway, listen, digital transformation in South Africa is a necessity in my mind. The rise of digital transformation, we've had a couple people on the show. It's transformed and democratized certain things, that we can all get access to. So now we have access to stock markets with easy equities, for example. That's an example of digital transformation. Launched new banks in the country, and now we're kind of automating away newspapers with social media as well. I've been quite interested in how South African entrepreneurs get their ideas and their websites off the ground. And your company does this quickly, as far as I can tell, for people who are wanting to, start their journey of starting a business and getting the website out and the app out. And it's all to do with Lowcode. So that's what we're talking about on the show today. But before we get into that, Botha, do give us a brief history of JustSolve. Where did this all begin?
Yeah, thank you, Quintus. 3rd of March 2016, I started JustSolve. It really came from left field. A lot of people plan starting a business for a long time. Came to me one day after one of my previous employers came to us and said, let's reboot the system that we had up previously. And I asked him, do you have a development team? And one thing led to another. In that time period, I was working here in Pretoria for a technology company. I was developing a almost like a Uber-like application, but for the insurance, for the tow trucks. And I met a lot of interesting people when I was working there. And one of those guys introduced me to a low-code platform called OutSystems. And at that same time, there was a previous colleague of mine that also approached me and said they have an app that they want to develop, and and they've heard they started the company. And basically, we came together, we sat around the table and said, what platforms are out there? What are people doing? What is the needs in the market? Where just digitizing your business is not digital transformation. How can we build something for ourselves, but also for our customers, where our values are aligned and where we continuously provide value to the customer? And how do you do that sort of predictably with lower skilled resources, given the skills drain in South Africa, if I can put it that way.
Sure.
And not just the skills drain, but the extra demand, like you were saying, all of this new innovations that is pressurizing businesses to perform faster and better and more competitive, and to also not be disrupted. But how do you do that in a company that's quite old? And so that's where JustSolve started. We value long-term relationships and partnerships with our customers. And today we have been a low-code specialist company for 5 years. So 3rd of March, in about a week or two's time, we turn 5, and we're very proud of what we've accomplished and where we've grown towards, all organically, word of mouth. We're now 36 people. By April, we'll be 40. And that's us. We are a niche boutique digital solutions company that work well remotely with anyone that needs our services.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Now, you guys specialize in rapid application development. Now, tell me, you say it's done in low-code environments. Now, some South Africans might be logging into this chat we're having, and they might say, what is low-code? I've never heard of low-code before. So can you kind of explain what low-code is, where it fits into the future of software development and rapid application development, and how are you guys helping already existing companies and startups use these kind of platforms? Let's talk low code is what I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah. So low code. Firstly, if you think about custom traditional development, it's a craft. It's like someone that goes and creates wooden furniture with their hands. It's a craft that's very skilled, and it's very time consuming, and the people that do it well, they will always be in demand. So low code is not there to replace traditional development, but it's there to help especially enterprises with startups for prototyping, and enterprises as well, because enterprises come up with ideas the whole time. They want to test it. After they've tested the market fit, they want to test a prototype. And these days, you need to get an app out between 6 weeks and 3 months. You can't, if you've got 12 apps to develop in the year as part of your backlog, with traditional development, you're going to need a massive skilled team, and those teams would have to have work together for a long time. So what Lowcode aims to do is basically to help with the automation of handwritten code. And you get, not all Lowcode platforms are made equal, and you get different type of ones. You get ones where it's metadata driven at compile time, and you get ones that's metadata driven at runtime. OutSystems, for instance, is the one where it's a visual low-code designer that helps you very quickly construct screens, databases, scaffold them, and connect APIs, and just create an app from templates and all of that. But then it actually generates your C# and .NET code for you in the background when you actually push that code. So it's a little bit different. So you're not vendor locked in. So people need to be careful when they select one of these low-code tools, that they just contact a specialist in low-code market to help them just evaluate the different platforms according to their needs. Gartner actually predicts that 65% of all applications in the enterprise will be built with low-code platforms by 2024. So that's when you look at that, it's quite a number.
Yeah.
And they also say that enterprises will have between 1 and 5 low-code platforms within the enterprise. So it's also not just one. It's not one. It's one tool in your toolbox. There's also a notion of no code. Now, no code is something completely different. I think that is really where startups can help with their market fit, where you get AppSheet and Bubble and those type of applications that you can quickly spin up something, and you can show your investors, look, this is the prototype, this is my idea, I've tested it in the market, now give me money to develop something real.
Yeah.
Then you can choose low code, or you can choose traditional code. With low code, it depends on the type of project you're developing and the complexity level, whether it's low, medium, or high. If it's very high complexity, you need to consult a proper specialist.
For sure.
So in JustSolve, we have multiple solution architects and tech leads that have got 15 plus years of experience. So in traditional development, not just OutSystems. OutSystems, we've got 5, 6, 7 years experience. So when it comes to, we can advise you in both directions in what is the best fit for your immediate need. If you're going to be building your own workflow system, very high complex, your own AI model, Lowcode is not the platform for you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you would rather hook into existing services, and in the low-code platform, you do all the rest basically.
But in a South African context, sorry to interject there, I'm starting to kind of understand this. For people who are unemployed, because we have like a 60% youth unemployment problem, right? And a lot of industries these days are closing down, and people are like, listen, bro, just learn how to code. And so people who have a level of coding understanding, like you say, 5 to 7 years of coding experience, could you then become a guy in a company that specializes in a low code platform, for example?
Yeah, look, I think even if you've got 2 to 3 years experience, and you've got that foundation, you would, when you get let's use OutSystems as an example, you get trained up within 2 weeks, as long as you have that foundation. If you don't have that foundation, we'll have to first build that up. And so JustSolve also offers 1-year internships where we actually work with people straight out of college, or some that have the background but not necessarily the tertiary education, and we put them through those training courses, and we make sure that we reinstate the web development fundamentals and coding techniques that is needed, just to have that abstract type of thinking and the problem solving, the right attitude basically, to do these things.
Because I mean, there's so much digital. Go ahead.
No, but from what you were saying from an unemployment perspective, there's massive opportunity to upskill people within these type of platforms that can actually add a lot of value, and up to a point where it's either maintenance wise or maybe smaller projects. But I think the moment you get into medium to high complexity projects, you need to consult a proper development company.
Yeah, but I think we need standards in the country, for coding specifically, especially for people who can't afford to be in a coding college for like 8 to 9 years type of thing to become a full stack developer type of thing. We really need to get kids off the street type of thing to get coding experience. But I believe that the schools are doing good work in starting to push kids towards a coding future in South Africa, which I would be happy about.
What's also very interesting is that OutSystems have actually partnered with some of the educational institutions. Okay. So Stellenbosch University and Tshwane University of Technology both actually have OutSystems implemented there in some form and fashion. So at Tshwane University of Technology, there's actually students actually get educated as part of their I think their third year, and then at Stellenbosch, I think it's in their master's degree. They even the IT programs. Let's say for instance, I think it's Informatica and those. That's not so development oriented. They actually in their final year give them exposure to low-code platforms, and I think that's really important to give people with an IT technical background, but not necessarily that's going into the full-blown, like you said, full stack development area, but also enabling them to develop applications and solve problems with other tool sets.
Well, let's talk about big companies, because some big companies might be looking into this whole movement now and wondering, listen, we got to take a lot of our legacy stuff and we got to convert it into a digital platform. Does JustSolve help with that? What do you see in terms of low code being used to good success in the industry? How do you guys basically now take a company that has a lot of legacy stuff lying around and now put it all into a digital business tool for them?
Yeah, look, there's three type of applications always. There's the customer experiences, operational systems, and then legacy projects. Those are the three type of projects that you will always get, and you can classify them accordingly. So sometimes the legacy is not that bad. So sometimes you would actually come in and say, okay, you've got an AS400 or you've got an old mainframe system running, and I'm laughing, but 3 of our clients actually still have AS400s running, and we integrate new customer experience using OutSystems and then integrate with the legacy system. So, it really depends on the customer and the unique use case, on where does their unique selling points and value propositions lie within the business, where do they need to focus their digital transformation on, and then seeing how we can leverage existing investments. Not to come and just disrupt, and developers are very keen to always just rewrite, but we need to be very careful. We need to put on our the golden tests, if I can put it that way, to ring fence things in the boundaries, and then work on renewing it. So sometimes you can give a product a whole new life by just putting a new face on it, but in the back, it's still the same. Also, just to come back to your previous question and how it can enable people, OutSystems, for instance, has got you can sign up on the community. You can actually register at outsystems.com for your own personal environment, which they spin up in AWS for you, Amazon Web Services, and that's free of charge. You can go through their learning material and you can actually build prototypes without any charge. You can't commercialize it, then you have to contact a partner like JustSolve to actually purchase a license, but you can enable yourself. You can train yourself today free of charge.
No, yeah, I mean that's the whole thing with YouTube as well. You know, like YouTube being this free university of ideas that you can quickly learn how to use a software. And low code. I mean, since you guys, since I approached you guys about low code, suddenly I've been seeing these low code and no code pre-integrations, even in a media sense. Because, like, say as a media company myself, right, I'm quite interested in solutions that have pre-built integrations. Like, if I tweet something on my Twitter account, there's a solution that then grabs the tweet and sends it into a cloud integrated service that sends it to a Telegram group, for example. So is that a good example of low code? Because people, especially startups, need that early low code integration.
That's definitely, if you think about Worker 2, you think about Vyver, you think about IFTTT, we think about all of those platforms that help you just connect to APIs and then do the data mapping. So you can say, if an email comes from here, fire off this event and do that, and you're just basically connecting them. You're not writing code. You're just defining the logic, and that is what low code is all about. Is defining your business logic. And basically, the days where you worried about the underlying infrastructure, those days are gone. So now, with Azure, Google, IBM, AWS, all of that, with the cloud now, it's infrastructure as a service, right? Now, so now that box is ticked. Now you get platforms like OutSystems, which is a platform as a service that then runs on top of infrastructure as a service. But where and then moves to above that is actually when you develop your own product on top of that, it's a software as a service that you can then expose to your customers. But essentially, you only, as a developer and as the person creating the value every day for the business, only want to worry about the application layer. You don't want to worry about the DevOps layer. You don't want to worry about the infrastructure layer. You don't want to worry about is the latest operating system updates done? Is the virus scan up to date? Is this, is that?
Yeah.
You really don't want to, you just want to focus and have a lean team. Let me give you one example, just to get back to your previous question on how we've helped some of the companies. We are helping small companies, we're helping big companies. But I think one of the examples that I can give you is a debt collection company that was one of our first customers back in 2016. They used to run a legacy system that took 12 years. It was developed over 12 years as a bespoke custom development solution. And it used, there was 36 developers that used to maintain and enhance that that platform. So that is actually how I started JustSolve. They came to me and said, we want the same. Can you bring this up for us? And I said, yes, I can. But will you be able to employ 36 developers again? I said, no. So, okay, well, then we need to re-strategize, look at other platforms. And we had to make sure that we can enable them to really develop that application quickly so that they can start engaging with the market again, start rebuilding their business and with a very small team. So we actually built a MVP, which is a minimum viable product for them, for their collection side, within 16 weeks, integrated via OutSystems into a backend a switch, a wallet type of system with a ledger and everything, with a point of sale that they can swipe when they go see a debtor in the field, all of that within 16 weeks. We got them up and running, we proved it, and from there, they've reinvented their business model over the last 5 years a couple of times. They're now actually rebuilding the system again because things change. And what people think is they just think about the initial 40% gain, or depending on the type of project, can even be a 400% gain in speed on delivering the initial version. But the real cost of ownership, the total cost of ownership, and the ROI comes in a 5 to 15 year period, and the maintenance and the rewriting of your business the whole time. So with a platform like OutSystems, a low-code type of rapid application development platform, you can do that much cheaper, much easier. And when someone comes in new to the team, because if they know OutSystems or they know that low-code platform, they know how to do things within that platform. They don't need to think how the previous architect architected a specific design pattern or architectural pattern or a data repository pattern, which they don't understand. And you get this. You've removed with a low-code platform. You remove all of those technology decisions and those architectural decisions. So, when you start a new project, traditionally, you need to think about what programming language do I use? What web development framework do we use?
Exactly.
Then you need to look at your team. Do they have the skills, or do we need to change according to their skills, or do we need to reskill, then or upskill? Then we look at you just go down a rabbit hole. Which version of entity framework? Then you choose it, and then it says, then you do we use code first or database first or model first? There's 3 options. So at every decision point, it just branches and branches and branches. And then when those original people that made those decisions move out of the company and new people come in, they don't know why those decisions were made. And it's if they are not as I don't want to say they're not as clever, but they don't know exactly what was the information available to those previous developers when they made those decisions. So using a low-code platform standardizes those patterns. There's one way to access the database. There's one way to do this. There's one way to do that.
Perfect.
So someone can just come in and maintain a system easily.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, 16 weeks for a big company that's wanting to redigitize is small, a drop in the ocean for the 5 to 10 years of future profits that they're still going to be able to amass, which they're only going to be able to amass because it looks like a very good digital product, and that's the thing. But that's why I bring up the whole media entity, say the one-man media entity. That's what Quintessential ZA is. I don't think there's coders out there that could believe that some of the stuff that they've built is being used by media startups, for example. And that's, I guess, the interesting thing about low code is that these things can be applied to a plethora of industries. And that's exactly, while going on your website, I've seen that you've helped many different industries. I mean, you helped, was it a Centurion biking shop? I saw a shop that sells bikes in Centurion. You helped them with a website and got that off the ground. But I specifically want to talk about the guys you helped with Vyver. Because Vyver in South Africa, this is what's making this conversation, possible. So talk to me about a Vyver company. If a Vyver company comes to JustSolve, how would you work with them to now deploy things in a digital framework for them?
Yeah, okay, thanks, Quintus. So we work across many industries because we are a software consulting company. So we deal with fintechs, with financial services, healthcare, mining, automotive, and like you say, from a KTM shop that sells bikes all the way through to a COVID tracking app. It's really we've, I don't want to say seen it all, but we've got a lot of industry expertise across the board. So getting back to the Vyver, that's the telecommunications industry, which we've also tackled. So we've got a couple of platforms in JustSolve. So JustSolve doesn't just develop applications for consultants or as consultants for other companies. We also develop some of our own products. So there's actually a product set that we've constructed, which is a virtual ISP solution in a box. So a company would come and say, okay, we want to sell Vyver services on an open access network, and we want to provide these and these services on Frogfood and OpenServe, and these are our packages and these are our rates. So we've got a solution that we've built that we can then expose to them. So that's not necessarily low code. That is actually built traditionally using various via an integration layer to various platforms. So if you go to wondernet.co.za, for instance, you'll see that's one of the solutions we built for CCOM, where someone can come in, they put their home address in, whether they're a business or a individual, and they can then see which services are available in their area. In the backend, we integrated into all of the Vyver network operators with their maps, coverage maps, and all of that. So we can then say this is available, and then you've got your products and services coupled to that, and people can then order that. We facilitate the whole debit order collection and e-mandate and credit card validations, all of those things we facilitate. Cancellation of services, prorated billing, bundles, A to Z, basically.
For sure. I think I bring it up because, we were talking about digital transformation and Vyver as an idea for South Africa and this whole thing where kind of the state has laid the fiber, but now, privatized industry gets to now experiment on top of the fiber infrastructure and actually deliver really, really good solutions to the end customer. I believe is a really, really it's untapped in terms of its potential in South Africa, because this could be the digitization of the country, bringing people online in their households with fiber.
It's definitely, and in some way the existing fiber network operators have, I don't want to say they've done South Africa damage, but it could have been done in a better way. It could have been done in conjunction with municipalities, which would have made it much cheaper. So there's another company in the group called Amoeba TSC, and they have actually patented fiber as a fifth utility, and they're busy doing rolling out at one or two municipalities, fiber as a fifth utility. So what that means is on your utility bill where you see your electricity and your water, you would actually see your fiber, and your smart meters and your would actually run over the fiber, and they can offer free of charge services on the fiber, and then allow ISPs and other companies on that open access network to then put their products and services and sell bandwidth on top of the infrastructure. And then it's an asset, a revenue generating asset for the municipality. So, that is really, really important to create that connected digital world. I know 5G is coming, and there's a lot of other things. MTN is talking about the air fiber, which is unlicensed microwave. They're rolling out at the townships where there's not necessarily all of the high speed connectivity and fiber yet. Then there's what's the satellite service of
Starlink.
Starlink. And all of those that all those things are coming. But at the end of the day, fiber will always be there. I think fiber is a really good connectivity mechanism. It's very reliable and very fast. But coverage fiber is difficult to put in. It's expensive to put in.
For sure. No, yeah, look, I mean, I just want more people coming online, because then, shows like this, where now somebody who's thinking of, starting a digital company or something can now come to you guys and say, my word, this is exactly what I needed. A company that can, from the top down, help me out. In launching these things. But on a previous episode of the Quintessential Show, we were talking about the South African Revenue Service. Okay, now I want you to tell me, is JustSolve capable of helping SARS out? Because we've been talking about how there's been a general failure to digitally migrate some of their processes to newer applications. So talk to me. Is there
I would love to get in touch with someone there. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone there. So if someone wants to reach out to Botha at JustSolve.co.za, that would be great. We can have a chat.
Somebody was saying it's going to take 1 billion rand for their digital migration of something, and most guys I speak to say I could do that much cheaper for the government.
Yeah, look, Quintus, we obviously don't know the full scope of what they want to do, but I'm sure there is ways, if we have some type of consortium, to put our heads together and come up with the best solution for South Africa as a whole. And the thing is, if you, it's just actually so sad, because from a technology perspective, one of the issues they're currently having is this Adobe Flash, that is still embedded within their applications to view your e-filing and all that. Now, in 2015, just to go back, 2015, Google and the rest of the browser market actually announced that they are discontinuing support for Adobe Flash because of security vulnerabilities. And at that stage, the company I was at, they were doing cognitive assessments, and all of their cognitive assessments were online. It was sort of gamified within ActionScript and within this Adobe Flash. And we had to rewrite. We launched a year project to rewrite all of that in HTML5 for them and JavaScript. So even small companies transformed back in 2015 because we knew it was going to be blocked. We knew there's a security risk, and I don't understand why the South African Revenue Service in 6 years couldn't just replace those critical components. At least I'm not even talking about a full digital migration. I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes on what they need, but at least those clearly visible things. I don't know why it wasn't done.
Look, new things are popping up all the time because now they released this new browser that people could use to now do their e-filing, and that has its own security risk in itself. A browser that the Revenue Service releases, and you're like, well, I don't know anything about this browser, now I need to use it. Funnily enough, my father's an accountant, and last night he tried to open a PDF, and their services cannot be opened with Chrome or Firefox because there's something to do with the NPAPI. Look, I'm not a tech guy, but
I know NPAPI. So NPAPI is the protocol the browser uses to actually access underlying features. And the old Silverlight and Adobe Flash, they uses the NPAPI protocol. That's actually why it's unsafe, because of that protocol. So what happens, even back in 2015 already, they changed that it's by default not enabled anymore. So you could have gone back to the settings and you could actually untick it to say enable NPAPI, but then you accept the risks and then Flash would work. So if that is in your settings disabled, it won't work. But at some stage now, it's not even going to be an option anymore. It's just going to be blocked.
Yeah, exactly. And I think some of it is already blocked, and I had to install Internet Explorer 11 for the guy to open the PDF and save the PDF in a window, because some things have been taken over to the HTML5 side, but this wasn't. It is a very specific part of the SARS website, but the fact that it's only e-filing that has been taken into the future, and now the rest of the stuff like request for remission, that's what he was having a problem for, is still in the past. But I think I bring that up because of the lack of digital transformation in South Africa. But as a company, JustSolve, you guys are really on the forefront of helping people go over the finish line of digital transformation, which I think is really good. But tell me, how quick is the industry developing overseas? Because automation is continuing to march forward overseas, and South Africans in general, not even the government, are being left behind. What do people need to look out for in the coming years? Lowcode obviously being one of them, right?
Yeah, look, and just to touch on overseas and Lowcode specifically, so a platform like OutSystems, for instance, that was started, believe it or not, 21 years ago, 20 years ago, in 2001, in Lisbon, Portugal, and after, I think it was about 2.5 years ago, after receiving $365 million investment from Goldman Sachs, they actually moved their headquarters to America, and from that 2.5 years ago, they were valued at $1 billion at that stage. Now they valued at $9.5 billion. They've just finished another Series E raise of $150 million to help with the expansion. So overseas, it's really, really growing. It's not just in Africa, or it's everywhere, because the big companies are swallowing up all of the best talent, if I can put it that way, and enterprises are left with a handful of people that can really do good traditional software development, and that knows that has come from first principles. A lot of the new software developers that enter the market, they don't have the first principle background that we had. I mean, I started programming in Turbo Pascal, and then Delphi, and then I actually went to the Intel 386 instructions with assembly when I was doing digital systems, and then to C, and then C++ and VHDL.
Mm-hmm.
And then only I came into ASP and PHP, and then only into C# and other managed services. And it's become more abstract than abstract. So if you put one abstraction layer on top of the other, and if you think about low-code, that's just another abstraction layer. Do you understand? So it's just another
but that's the issue. Like everything actually keeps on marching forward, and people who have just mastered the last thing now suddenly have to roll with the punches, essentially.
Yeah. And into 2017, JustSolve actually opened an office in Australia, and we thought, with our reference of South Africa, we thought the rest of the world were far in front of us.
Yeah.
But we quickly realized that the Australian market is different. They've got not just in the maturity of low-code, that it was so new. South Africa was probably about 5 years in front of Australia in terms of low-code adoption. And market awareness, but also the companies in Australia differ a lot. The most of the companies are small, 250 and less employees. In South Africa, we've got a lot of big companies, 6,000 employees, 5,000 employees, 3,000 employees.
Sure.
And we have a lot of small companies. But in Australia, there's a lot of medium-sized companies. So it's just to answer you, I think it depends on the territory, really.
Right.
But everywhere we're seeing take up, and we're seeing machine learning when it comes to big data, people actually mining that data, setting up proper engineering data pipelines, turning data into information into knowledge into insights, insights into actions. So data without knowledge and insights is meaningless. So once you have that, when you use a low-code platform, you would just consume that Azure cognitive service, or you just consume that chatbot, or you just consume and you just bring it into your application. So you develop those connectors in the low-code platform, and then you go and you set up your model. There's other low-code platforms that might be setting up that model. Even if you think about Microsoft Power Apps, that's also a low-code platform, and the Power Automate, and that is similar to what you mentioned, where you connect things like Zapier and that to each other. So even in that, you will set up a quick chatbot, and you can actually connect your Power App with your traditional app. So I don't think it's a question anymore of should we do this or shouldn't we do it. It's when do we use this and when we don't.
100%. And I think for South Africans specifically, because we're having this conversation, I have a very basic understanding of what low code is and coding in general, but an entrepreneur that starts tomorrow trying to get their idea from ideation to execution, and now faced with this digital coding world is in big trouble if they have to start with learning how to code. And so I believe that the already coded applications that can help a media company like myself scale up from the ground up is very important. But talk to me, if I was an entrepreneur in South Africa today and I'm like, okay, JustSolve, here's the idea, what is the turnaround time for, say, a startup who's kind of got a flimsy idea of what they want to do? How do you plug in?
That's a great question, because the natural thing would be to validate your idea to yourself, and you would congratulate yourself on this great idea and just start developing it. What we've seen over the years, and we always talk about Stalin projects. We don't want to do Stalin projects. So Joseph Stalin made the Jews dig their own graves,
right?
And then afterwards they made them fill it up again, just to break their spirits. Now that is the same if I take someone's money as an entrepreneur and just develop an app for them without actually believing that it would work, and testing the market with them to make sure that there's a market fit. So what we really try and do is to help them actually write that business model, review it with them, and then depending on where they're at and what they've tested, is actually to do a Google design sprint, where we actually sit and we define the target user groups. We define what is currently in the market. We do some research. We look at the competitive landscape with them, and really just hold their hand through that idea. And you'll be amazed how the idea starts to morph. then what we do is we actually create we use growth hacking techniques where we create social posts on Facebook. We create a website with a sign up button, and we see how many people come and knock on the door. We do a little bit of advertising, and if people are willing to buy it without the product actually, but you don't tell people the product doesn't exist. Once they say, yeah, I'll buy it, then you've validated, you've captured it, and then you tell them, we'll let you know as soon as the product is available. So once we are sure, okay, the what we call the MVV, the minimal viable value proposition is defined and set and tested with real data, not your own, validated and quantifiable and substantial, not just 2 or 3, 1,000 plus data points, then we know this will work. And a lot of people don't want to do that. We can do that first part for you, 50 to 150,000 rand. That is small change if you don't do it and you build the right thing. So there's actually the wrong thing. I mean, there's actually a ebook I'm listening to at the moment, which is The Right It, and I would actually recommend that to the listeners. If you're an entrepreneur, to go and listen to The Right It. It's on Audible, and it's a great way that and cheap and lean techniques that they show you on how to validate this yourself, but we also provide that service. Then once that is validated, so the one was from a marketing perspective, and then we go to the entrepreneur engineering perspective, where we define the MVP, which is the minimal viable product. And in that first phase of the market, we can also help you with a prototype and slideshows and a mock-up to actually show people, and also if you need investment to help that, you get that investment to show people visually what you want to go and build. Then when we start building it, we build the MVP and we iterate through it and incorporate feedback from the users the whole time to improve on the product. But don't go and build the end game from the start, otherwise you'll never launch.
Yeah, I've had a guy on this show before who just had a piece of paper and he drew a whole bunch of squares on the paper and he says, this is what I want my app to look like. And then it's up to guys like you to go and try and execute it, which is the scary part, I guess.
Yeah, look, we've got a design and strategy team that looks after that. They are the creative people. And then we've got, the Scrum Masters and the business analysts and the development teams that come sort of after we've set that down. But yeah, I mean, that's what we do every day. And we are happy to sit with you to do a digital transformation assessment as well for free and see where we can possibly assist you.
Well, Botha, I'm bringing a piece of paper with my Quintessential app very soon to show you this is what I wanted to do, and you're going to have to do it. But you guys as a company, you guys are running now JustSolve 100% remotely. Is that true? And that's since the outbreak of the coronavirus. Now, talk to us about 2020. Was it a tough year? Did you run with the punches? What happened?
Thanks, Quintus. Yeah, I think it's been an interesting year. It's definitely accelerated things for us, and for our customers. So one thing that I was contemplating with and playing with before the coronavirus lockdowns in March 2020 was that we were experimenting, because there was people asking me, can we work from home 2 or 3 days a week? So we actually were on the verge of exploring that. We've always had flexi time, so we output based. We don't try and micromanage people. We trust our people to do their work. So we've always been flexible in that regard, but we were always working from the office. And then Corona hit. And then I said, well, now we need to work. And we quickly set up a remote working policy for the employees to say, these are the guidelines and this is how we're going to be collaborating and these are the tools we're going to be using and this is the framework you need to work in. And initially it was tough because, you get these Zoom and Teams and Hangouts and all of these, what they call the Zoom fatigue. It actually, you had to force yourself to just, stand up, have lunch, make a cup of coffee, because these back-to-back meetings are really tiring. So it was an adjustment, but the feedback we've gotten from the teams were really positive, and to such an extent that in October 2020 we decided to actually give up our what do you call it?
Office space.
Our office space, yes.
Okay.
So we actually gave it up, although because we were working for 6 months and we were saying, but for how long is this going to carry on? And then what we actually saw, 2 of our employees started what they call semigrating. So 2, actually 3 now. 2 moved to Cape Town and 1 to Ladysmith.
Aha.
Because now they can work from anywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, and so now we've been able to tap into a lot more resources that previously weren't available to us necessarily just working from office. So or we would have lost them if we didn't support it and they moved away, right? So now we've been able to retain our staff much easier by accommodating flexible locations or any location.
Yeah. And now when a customer comes your way, I mean, do you have a Zoom chat with them? I kind of like this whole distance thing to a degree because I used to work for an online engineering college. So there's already, like online education, and that was developed, with Moodle and those kind of things a couple of years ago. So a lot of those people worked quite well. And I was working remotely for 5 years before the pandemic came through. And so, I mean, if I was a customer now asking you to do my Quintessential app, I'm happy to come to you and we do it via Zoom and hey, presto, the product is suddenly delivered and boom, you've got a digital product.
Yes. Yeah, so our practice lead of our design team actually lives in London, and so she's also worked for us remotely from the start. And I never realized how we were actually, I don't want to say excluding her, but sort of accidentally also excluding her until we all started working remotely. Our communication has actually improved, and I'm still happy to meet with a client, have a lunch, or do a whiteboard session, or sometimes we rent a boardroom at Spaces or Regus or those places. It's fine. We do that. We meet up. But the traveling, especially because we're in Pretoria, initially there was a lot of clients that want to see you in Midrand or they want to see you in Johannesburg, and then you just wasted so much time traveling up and down. And sometimes you get there and the client, something came up, and then you've just wasted a lot of time. So so I think it's made us more efficient, but also we need to be careful that we do keep that social contact. And so what we've done in JustSolve is we've got 4 practices, and it works out nicely. So every Friday of the month, we've got a breakfast together with each practice. I attend the breakfast of each just to at least see everyone once a month.
Yes. Yeah.
To keep that social relationships going. Of our clients, we see them when we need to. That's not a problem. And then with the digital transformation, we use tooling like Notion and Myra to actually do online shared whiteboarding, where we have like sticky notes you write on, which we use for these design sprints and all of that to do planning. We don't need to sit on a whiteboard in a physical location to do it necessarily, but sometimes it's still preferred, and it depends on how in depth you want to go into things and how important is it, and if you know the people already or you don't.
So, but that's digital transformation as well. Hey? Like some of these industries are going to be changing, and last year was just the kicking of the ball. The ball keeps rolling, and now a lot of industries are going to be changing in such a digital way. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that. But if any company wants to join that digital transformation, JustSolve is a justsolve.co.za.
Yeah, correct, Quintus.
Okay, perfect. So they can log onto your website. They can check out what other projects you guys have done in the past, and then they can determine, man, I want to work with these guys to get my app going or my website rolled out. I really think they are interesting. Digital transformation in South Africa, it's really, really important. Listen, Botha, thank you so much for joining the Quintessential Show today. It's been great chatting to you. We could chat all day, really, my word. But
thank you.
Yeah, go check JustSolve out, guys. We've got some, if you want to know about Lowcode, and I think a lot of people potentially do because it's quite a new term. We're going to put 2 links in the description to articles you can go and read in relation to Lowcode, and that might give you a bit of a background into it.
Yeah, Quintus, and they can also follow the JustSolve blog on Medium, We will be posting a low-code post in the next 2 or 3 days as well, and there will be some business tech articles going out just to help educate the market.
For sure. No, I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I'm going to see how, Quintessential can even make use of these low-code things. But you know what, Botha, I think we need to collaborate. How about it? Are you in?
I'm in. Okay. That'll be great.
Perfect. Listen, Botha, thanks for joining the Quintessential Show.
Thank you, Quintus.
Cheerio.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.